Welcome everyone to ASHB's quarterly CHC webinar meeting. My name is Marta Klipatowska and I am the Programs and Communications Manager here at ASHB. I'll be emceeing the slides today. Just want to mention that today's webinar meeting is being recorded. We'll be circulating the recording for those who could not attend. We'll also send everyone an email likely tomorrow with the links to the presentation, to the recording, and feel free to distribute that within your organizations or to your contacts. And with that, I will pass it on to Greg to go over the agenda for today.
Sure. Thanks, Marta. So it looks like I don't have a whole lot of heavy lifting in this one. It's mostly Ken, but here's the agenda for the day. We'll have Ken will be going over some call to order, welcome, introductions, a little bit about the CHC. We'll go through some administrative work with approving the past minutes. Do a research update by the CHC research projects, our landmark research project from 2023, and then the one that's starting soon in 2024. And then how Generative AI will impact the smart home from Josh.ai. We'll be doing a keynote presentation, and then we'll talk. Ken will talk about the ASHB journal, some white papers. Marta will talk about some of the upcoming podcasts and how to get involved in our podcast series, and then some new business, and then some announcements and some upcoming industry events that you may want to attend, and then finally adjournment. So with that, I'll pass it off to Ken Wax, the chair of the CHC.
Greg, thank you very much. Welcome all. My name is Ken Wax. I run a management consultancy that specializes in home and building automation and energy management. I'd like to welcome you all to the Connected Home Council of the Association of Smarter Homes and Buildings, formerly CABA. We were established by CABA back in 2004. The Connected Home Council initiates and reviews projects that relate to the connected home and multiple dwelling unit technologies and applications. CHC also examines industry opportunities that can accelerate the adoption of new technologies, consumer electronics, and broadband services within the burgeoning connected home market. Our webinars and selected research topics explore industry shaping trends and forces and the use of technology to make connected homes more flexible, adaptable, and human-centric. As a formality, we would like to approve the minutes from the previous meeting that was held last November. These meetings were distributed by Marta, and we'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes. Anyone?
I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion, Ken.
Thank you, Charlie. Do we have a second? Everyone is very shy today, I guess.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Lauren.
If there are no objections, we will consider the minutes approved. I'll wait 10 seconds. Hearing no objections, we declare the minutes approved. We have an open call for vice chairs. Both the Connected Home Council and the Intelligent Buildings Council operate with chair and vice chairs. So if anyone would like to be involved, please let us know, and we'll have ASHB contact you to discuss your role further. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Greg to tell us about the projects underway at CHC, part of the landmark research.
Thanks, Ken. So as many of you know, we do a lot of, as part of the Connected Home Council, we do collaborative research project where we pool the funds of members and we give it to a research firm in a competitive RFP process to conduct a research project on smart home every year. And then we did a little bit, we switched it up a little bit last year, and instead of having large reports, having more of around data and presentations. And it seemed to be well received by the group last year, and it looks like most of those funders have continued on for this year as well. And we've completed with the final release of that project was going to only goes to the funding organizations, and it was released in February. And there's the executive summary that's available on our website, or you can contact Marta Klopotowska at the email you see on the screen right now. And we continuing this project on for 2024. If you go to the next slide. We had a meeting with the initial funders of the research, and to select the research firm and the top 2 bids, and Harbor Research was selected to conduct the project for 2024, and they did the project last year as well. And this research will look at 500 consumer surveys from smart home users across North America, Canada, and the U.S., but primarily in the U.S., and looking at some of the key topics, opportunities, how to gain perspectives, and from the group, and how much they're willing to pay, and really looking at more of a smart home adoption curve from as going forward. So it's going to be a valuable project, and again covered 3 different reports. So there's that one, which the consumer survey report and the adoption curve, and then there'll be 2 really configured research projects will be selected by the steering committee, where they'll do a deeper dive with 100 analyst hours in each project. So it could be AI in the smart home, it could be energy management, or it could be any number of topics that is deemed salient by the steering committee, and then each one will have a separate report published just to that group, and a presentation given out to that group as well. So we're looking to start these projects. I think this one starts next week, but there's still opportunity to get involved. If anyone on the call wants to participate in this research project, the cost would be $5,000 to get the full research, or if you want to join the steering committee and shape it, it's $10,000, and you get an additional presentation to your organization at that level too, at the $10,000 level. But there's going to be an opportunity to shape the research until probably mid next month. So we probably have just over a month and a week, 2 weeks before we set the methodology in stone, and then they start going to the data collection phase. But if you're interested, contact myself at walker@ashb.com, or Marta, or anyone on the ASHB staff. So with that, I can pass it off to, I think, Charlie giving an introduction of the keynote speaker, and Alex from Josh.ai. Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. And thanks for joining. My name is Charlie Dirk. I'm the VP of Strategy at Legrand, and pretty excited today to announce our keynote, how generative AI will impact the smart home. If you didn't get the description via email, I'll just read it real quick. But we've got with us Alex Capecelatro, the founder and CEO of Josh.ai. He's going to unpack generative AI, unveiling the mechanics and the game-changing impact on smart homes. Generative AI isn't just about understanding, it's about learning and creating. And Alex is going to navigate the complexities and explain how it comprehends user preferences and adapts to context. He's going to explore how these algorithms evolve, crafting tailored experiences within the smart home setups. And it'll give insights into how generative AI enhances automation, it refines user interfaces, bolsters security measures. Alex will talk through some real-world examples showcasing how this tech simplifies tasks and enriches residents' lives. Just a little bit background on Alex. As I mentioned, the CEO and founder of Josh.ai, a leader in artificial intelligence for the home. Started his career as a research scientist for NASA, the Naval Research Lab, and later Sandia National Laboratory. Then ventured into consumer technology, first with electric car company Fisker Automotive, then through founding 2 social software products, At the Pool and Yeti, with members in more than 120 countries. Alex's focus is at the intersection of elegant design, cutting-edge software, and purpose-driven hardware to offer transformational experiences. Alex received his material science and engineering degree from UCLA. He's won numerous awards, including the CEDIA 2017 Young Professional of the Year Award, the 2020 UCLA Rising Professional Achievement Award, and has been featured on multiple occasions as a 40 under 40. Alex currently serves on the board of CEDIA, 20 Summers, and startup UCLA. And just one note that I'll make, and then I'll turn it over to Alex. I've known Alex for a couple of years now, and have gotten to see what the folks at Josh have been working on. And it's pretty amazing. You know, I think we talk about voice assistants and AI often, but until you see a company kind of take it to the next level, it's really hard to comprehend. So I'm excited for Alex to kind of walk through some of this with us today. And I'll turn it over to you, Alex.
Charlie, this is Ken Wax. If I might add my comment, I first saw Josh at, I think it was their initial launch at CEDIA, and I was impressed at the blend of technology, leading edge technology, in a very elegant setting. And I'm glad to see that the company has continued this blending of technology and user presence and interface that makes the product very attractive.
Awesome. Thanks, Ken. All right, over to you, Alex.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, I will screen share. It says it's going to take over from someone else. Here we go. All right. Let me know if you guys can see the screen okay.
Yep, we can see it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me. This is an exciting topic. It's something that I've been really working on now for the better part of a decade, but a lot of this technology goes long before that. It's pretty exciting that it's blown up in the last couple of years on the AI side. And my goal is I want to make sure you guys understand a little bit of how this technology works, why it's all, happening right now, and ways that it's starting to impact the home. That being said, I totally understand I'm not going to cover everything that you might have questions about in the short period. And so I want to leave some time for Q&A at the end. So I'm going to move a little bit quickly, but definitely want to hear from you guys. Want to know what your thoughts are, what your concerns are, and what I can do to help. So with that, you guys gave a very generous introduction. I don't feel like I need to add too much more than this, but just to reiterate, name's Alex Capecelatro, co-founded a company called Josh.ai in 2015, and putting AI in the name of our company was non-obvious when we started, but we really thought AI was such an important factor in the home. And at this point, I think we all understand that it's becoming more critical for us to really be embracing. That being said, I understand that you guys might not have a real hands-on experience with Josh.ai. And so just want to give a little bit of a background. What you're looking at here is the Josh app. This would be an example of a project like a Midtown penthouse. You're seeing that we can control lights, thermostats, music, shades, fans, different switches. We primarily focus on software, but we do make a number of hardware products focusing on the interface. So microphones, sensors, processors, but then we're really focused on trying to work with great companies. So working with companies like Legrand, Lutron, Sony, Sonos, Comcast, etc. The idea is that we're trying to pull all of it together and to offer a really simple interface to control anything that you might want to control. So all about different device types, but also about just living an easier life. So an example would be, I think someone had mentioned 2N in the chat. We work with 2N among other doorbell integrations. And so we can make it where when someone rings that doorbell, it announces over your speakers that someone's at the door, announces on your phone. You can easily unlock that and then have that trigger an entire scene so that, it sets a pathway lighting, maybe sets a, greeting for guests. There's a lot that we can do around the software side. We did introduce last year a new platform that we call Josh GPT. And this is our using large language models to take what we've done in the home. So you've seen, existing control platforms like Crestron, Control4, Savant. And this is our ability of saying, let's try to add AI and large language models to make this a more exciting and interesting opportunity. So I have a short 2-minute video that kind of shows what we're talking about. And I don't want this to feel like a Josh ad. This is the last bit that really focuses on what we do at Josh. After this, I'm going to get more into really just kind of how generative AI works. But I think this does a good job at showing some of the use cases of how we're going from traditional smart home control and leveraging large language models to offer new opportunities. So I'm going to hit play, and hopefully this streams pretty well. Let me know if you have any issues seeing it or hearing it.
Since its founding, Josh.ai has continuously pushed the boundaries of how we interact with technology. Introducing JoshGPT, the next breakthrough in intelligent living. Imagine having the power to access information about any topic and generate content by simply asking for it. Now ask yourself, how will you use this power? No request is too complex or obscure thanks to your all-knowing, supercharged assistant. Embrace the freedom to effortlessly explore, inquire, and engage with Josh. Whether you're at home or on the go, your dynamic companion is always ready to help. Hey Josh, what year did the Beatles release Let It Be?
The Beatles released Let It Be in 1970.
Josh has always been a leader in AI for the home, purposefully designed to transform how we interact in our living spaces. JoshGPT goes beyond controlling and customizing your environment, opening the door to a new world of limitless opportunity. With this technology at your fingertips, receive thoughtfully curated suggestions about any topic that piques your interest. Whether you're looking for information about your local area, seeking entertainment recommendations, or craving music insights, JoshGPT has you covered. Beyond offering enhanced assistance, Josh continuously optimizes your surroundings with its award-winning features and capabilities. Seamlessly control your home in whatever way feels most natural with voice, touch, and text, while Josh adapts to your preferences and daily routines. Enjoy a simple, private, and magical living experience. Elevate your lifestyle with JoshGPT, the ultimate AI-driven home companion. Hey Josh, close the shades, turn on the fireplace, dim the lights, and tell me about the movie Casablanca.
You got it.
All right, so that gives you an idea of how we're using AI and large language models in the home. But let's take a step back. Let's talk a little bit here about what is AI. And so the first thing to note is when we talk about AI, there are actually a lot of different aspects of artificial intelligence, but generative AI is the term that we're really referring to today when you're using things like ChatGPT. So generative AI has had the fastest acceptance and usage growth of any technology to date. So to show you what this looks like in a graph, on the left, this is looking at the growth of how long it took these different products to reach 100 million users. So Google Translate, for example, got there in 78 months. In the middle, Spotify hit 100 million users in 55 months. Well, even something like TikTok, which was the previous fastest growing product to get to 100 million users, got there in 9 months. ChatGPT did that in just 2 months. And so the reason that this is so interesting and so exciting is that a lot of people are adopting this, and it's moving at an incredibly fast rate. I just saw quickly in the chat, free for a quick call this week. Marta, yes, feel free to reach out. Happy to chat later. So anyway, generative AI is definitely the thing that's really growing right now. And when we talk about generative AI, what we're talking about is an AI that's able to create new content based on past content. So for example, the way that something like Alexa or Google or Siri would have worked in the past, if you were to say, give me maybe 3 recommendations for restaurants, it's going to go and basically pull that from information that already exists. But if you wanted to say something that didn't exist, so for example, if you wanted to say, hey, give me a recipe for lasagna, but it needs to be gluten-free, dairy-free, and low calorie, it's going to actually generate a recipe using all the information it has from cooking websites and cookbooks and stuff like that. And this idea of generating something that has never existed before, that's what's making this information so exciting. And so we're seeing generative AI coming up with new songs, new scripts, marketing materials. There are all these different ways that generative AI is helping to augment the creative process. And that's really why it's so exciting. Now, at the heart of generative AI are neural networks. And neural networks can be very simple. You can have a couple different, basically, pathways to get there. But deep neural networks, what we're looking at here, these can be millions and millions of nodes deep. And this is really at the heart of what allows us to do the magic. And so when you think about what is a neural network, well, each neuron, which is that circle, it's basically a simple mathematical function that's calculating an output based on an input. And so based on the right training data, neural networks can exhibit human-like intelligence. Examples of what this looks like, you can have a very simple neural network where you're feeding in lots of photos, and the neural network is going to figure out how to caption those photos. So for example, you might want the information to say, hey, I'm going to give you an image, and I want you to tell me, is there a person in that image? Maybe this is for security cameras. And so based on feeding it millions and millions of photos of past images where you're telling the system, these images have people and these images don't, it's able to start to figure out that the next image it's never seen before can identify this has a person or it doesn't. And then naturally that can be taken further. It can start to figure out, here's, Alex Capecelatro, or here's, someone we've never seen before, or here's a cat, here's a dog. And so the idea of starting to tag images, that's what neural networks are really good at. But neural networks are actually really good at not just images, but doing interesting processing with videos, with text, and with other data-driven processes. And so this is a natural way to start to make the home smarter. So when we talk about AI and generative AI, a lot of their experience today is based on something like ChatGPT, which is built on LLMs, or large language models. And so I'm putting this slide up partly because I want you to just be familiar with the term, but also just to talk a little bit about what is sort of the precise aspect of an LLM that makes this work. Well, large language models are basically predicting which words and which parts of words are likely to follow. And so they're trained on all of the internet's information, and they can start to figure out the idea that if you were to say, for example, I'm trying to think of an easy one that's a good reference, but turn on the lights in the living blank, it's going to predict that room might be the next word that follows based on those words that preceded. And so large language models can start to get really good about predicting the next thing, and that's what allows them to then start to generate new flows and new context. So part of what makes large language models work, and this is hard for us to really sort of think about how a human would do this, they take huge amounts of data. For example, ChatGPT was trained on over 1.5 billion parameters, and those parameters include, every celebrity, every famous person, every city, every capital, every piece of information that exists. And that's what allows ChatGPT to be pretty powerful. Well, we went from ChatGPT pretty quickly after to GPT-4. GPT-4 went from a parameter count of 1.5 billion to over 1.7 trillion. So an order of magnitude more parameters, actually 3 orders of magnitude more. And so it's processing effectively and efficiently these huge amounts of data that allows this to work. Now, there's a lot of work going into GPT-5 and what's next. And this is really about both giving it more data, but also understanding more data isn't always the answer. Sometimes it's about smarter data and having multi-modal components that can really get intelligent. And to give an example of what this means, it's one thing to answer the question, what is the movie The Matrix about? And that needs to basically have a synopsis of the movie The Matrix. But when you're talking about multimodal, what we're doing on the Josh side is to be able to say, both what is the movie The Matrix about, but also I might want to say, let's watch the movie The Matrix. And in that case, we don't want to go and figure out the synopsis. We want to figure out where we can watch it. So for example, the movie The Matrix, is it on Netflix? Is it on Hulu? Is it on HBO Max? Is it somewhere else? How do we identify where it is? And then how do we actually load it up? So for example, if we see that it's on HBO Max, well, maybe in your living room, you have an Apple TV or you have a Roku. We need to basically figure out, how do we turn on the TV? How do we route to the right source? So maybe it's HBO. How do we go into the right content? And so what we're really trying to do is a pretty difficult problem of both being able to give you information about the content, but also be able to get the content to load. This gets really tricky with other content. For example, if you said, listen to The Lights, well, The Lights is an album. It's a song by Kanye West. There's also an artist called The Lights, but there's also going to be, different content like, or not content, but rather different devices like the actual lights. And so, for example, if you said, turn on the lights, you want the lights to turn on the house. But if you said, listen to the lights, you want, probably the song to go on. Well, it gets somewhat easy when you have a clear definition like that. But turn on gets really complicated because you can say turn on the device like the lights. You could say turn on the Beatles, which would be the music. You could say turn on the Matrix, which would be the video. And then you could also have people create custom names for rooms and scenes and commands. So all of a sudden, turn on X, where X could be any type of content, that gets really tricky. And so this is a lot of what's being worked on right now, is making sure the right thing happens when you give an ambiguous command. So I want to show some examples of ways that just large language models get really interesting, because it gives us a glimpse into how this stuff is getting pretty smart. So in the Josh office, we have a painting of flowers, and we had someone that was in there who said, what can you tell me about the art series that the inventor of pop art made that showcased in Paris? Before we look at the response, let's just think, for example, how many of us would know what this is talking about? So what can you tell me about the art series that the inventor of pop, so who's the inventor of pop art? Well, that's Andy Warhol, but not everyone knows that. And then his series that showcased in Paris. Well, most of us don't know, but he showcased a pretty important series of these flowers, the flower series in Paris. And so the system's able, in this case, Josh GPT, to come back and say, the reference appears to be Andy Warhol's flower series, showcased at the Elena Sonnenbond's gallery in Paris in 1965. The series marked a departure from Warhol's obsession with morbid themes and instead depicted a vibrant modern take on nature's beauty. It's rather charming. And so this idea of being able to use these large language models to give you information about, in this case, artwork in the house, but it could be about cooking, it could be about trivia, could even be about, how do I repair something? Maybe I've got, a light switch that's not working. All of a sudden, people are using these systems to start to get information that large language models and AI systems previously couldn't do, and most humans couldn't really help you with this. The next example I want to show is kind of a fun one that I found on the internet. And so this is one where someone says, I'm in my house. On top of my chair in the living room is a coffee cup. Inside the coffee cup is a thimble. Inside the thimble is a single diamond. I move the chair to my bedroom. Then I put the coffee cup on the bed. Then I turn the cup upside down. Then I return it right side up, and I place the coffee cup on the kitchen counter. Where's my diamond? The reason this is such an interesting problem is this isn't just a straightforward information lookup question. It's not asking, what's the capital of France and getting back Paris? In this case, it needs to basically use logic and reason to figure out, where was the chair? Where was the thimble? Where was the diamond? Where is it now? And the idea that you have multiple things that are moving, that are able to contain other things, it then comes back and says, when you turn the coffee cup upside down on your bed, the diamond would have likely fallen out onto the bed. The diamond is now on your bed. This is not a straightforward question for software to have figured out. And the idea that you can ask it anything like this, you can say, I've got an item that I put in the car and I drive the car to the office and I get out. Well, is the item now in the office? Is it in the car? Is it still at home? And depending on what the item is, it's actually having to use a lot of logic and reasoning to get there. This was an emergent behavior. This was something that people did not think the AI was going to be able to answer. And the fact that it was is a very exciting opportunity, because we're starting to see ways that AI is solving problems we never thought it was going to be capable of solving. So I just want to show this example because we can start to think about, how does this help our techs in the field figure out, my TV is not turning on, what's maybe going wrong? And it's going to help to start to figure out, is it powered properly? Is it connected properly? Is it, getting the right information? And so I think that this is really the beginning of a glimpse into where AI in the home is going to start to be really powerful. So I do want to mention, at this day and age, we do have a few things to watch out for with large language models. We have to watch out for hallucinations, bias, and real-time data. Sorry, just taking a sip of water. I've lost my voice this week a little bit. So when we talk about hallucinations are cases where these large language models give us an answer that sounds believable, but it might not be. So for example, in the early days, if I said, what's a museum in San Francisco that I can go to see Andy Warhol? Well, it might see that there's a museum that exhibited Andy Warhol 10 years ago, and therefore it might make an assumption, say, oh, you can go to SF MoMA and you can see the Andy Warhol exhibit. Well, it might not have realized that exhibit was only up for a short period, and you're going to send someone now to a museum where there's a new exhibit. It doesn't have that anymore. Hallucinations were one of the major problems with early ChatGPT. I will say this has gotten much, much better and continues to improve, but it's still a concern that we want to be thinking about. The next one is there's inherent bias. If you asked it, for example, who's the best candidate to win the election this year for president? Well, that's a very subjective question. It depends on your politics. It depends on what your, concerns are. What are the things that are most important to you, which might not be the same things that are important to someone who lives somewhere else. And so bias in AI is a huge part of the research that we're all focused on to try to remove and try to make better. That being said, you can also go too far into the abstract and say, oh, well, it's so subjective, I'm not going to give you an answer. Well, that's not helpful either. And so we need to basically keep making these models better so that they're not biased, but they're still useful. And then the last one, this was a real issue about a year and a half ago. It's not becoming an issue now, but it's something that we're still working through. And this is real-time data. If you were to say, tell me about last Thursday's State of the Union address, the AI might not have that information because AI systems, as we talked about, are trained on huge corpuses of data, and that data is not being updated in real time. But this multimodal approach, where we can basically take huge amounts of data to train the base model, but then feed in weather, politics, news, different effects and events, all of a sudden we can get better about real-time data. I will say this is still something that's emerging, and so it's not going to be perfect today, but it's way better than it was 6 months ago, and that was way better than 6 months prior. And so over the next 3, 6, 12 months, it's going to keep making progress. But I did just want to mention, we do have these areas that we need to be mindful of. And then it's also worth mentioning, is it all ChatGPT? Well, short answer is it's not. I showed you examples with Josh.GPT, which do our own thing. In addition to ChatGPT, GPT-4 is technically different, still from OpenAI. But then you've got Google's Lambda model, which was the underlying principles of Bard, now relabeled as Gemini. And so Google's doing a lot of exciting things. You've got Anthropic, which are a bunch of ex-OpenAI folks doing Cloud 3. This is a major technology that Amazon is working with. And so this is a separate model. You then have XAI, so what Elon Musk is doing with Grok, which I believe has just been open sourced or will be open sourced soon. And then what I think is probably the most exciting sort of large language model coming out of a major tech company, Meta has put out Llama 2, soon going to be Llama 3. And the reason that I think this is really interesting is that Llama, unlike the other ones, has been completely open source from the beginning. And so any company can go and take this technology and use it for their own needs and their own wants. And so the fact that this stuff is moving towards an open source model, this is pretty transformative because unlike technologies in the past, like Alexa or Siri, where you can't go in and make this your own, Llama is an example where you can go and solve your own problems the way that you want. And so I'm pretty excited about this. Is not just OpenAI. This is not just ChatGPT. This is not just Google. This is a lot of different technologies from different companies that are moving towards open source. And that's part of why this is really pretty transformative. The other thing is it's not just about text. And so, for example, I want to show you, and this is from almost a year ago, so it's already gotten better, but you can give a query, like you can say in pure text form, generate a 4K photo of a puppy wearing heart-shaped sunglasses, eating an ice cream cone. The reason this is interesting is it's not doing a lookup to find a photo that has already existed. It's generating a photo where we want to have puppies with heart-shaped sunglasses eating ice cream cones. And this is what it came up with. It gave us a bunch of examples where, it's not perfect. The one on the left looks a little computer generated on the glasses, where the third and fourth one, the glasses look more like a real product. But again, the idea that you can generate something like this is pretty transformative to go into your marketing material, go on your websites, go into your emails. It's pretty amazing what you can do with it. But then we can go and make a modification. If we ask for the exact same query, but instead of saying a puppy, say the Pope. So I want a photo of the Pope wearing heart-shaped sunglasses, eating an ice cream cone. It generates this. And so what I think is pretty amazing is it's not perfect. Which Pope, the third one looks a little bit more like Francis, but the second one certainly not. But, it looks like a Pope. The second one and, third one, the glasses aren't heart-shaped, but the one on the right is, the one on the left is. Part of making this better is giving it more information. If I were to say, I want a particular Pope with a particular flavor of ice cream and, give it more data, it can get better. But this idea of generating sort of content that hasn't existed before, it's pretty exciting. And the last thing I'll say about this is when you want to generate video, which is sort of the new emerging trend, a video is just a sequence of images. So if we can generate really good images, we can start to generate really good video. And so this is where it's starting to become really interesting around text, around images, around videos, around audio. And there's so many different components that I think are pretty exciting. So how's it going to impact the smart home? Just to kind of run through this quickly, because I know I've spent a bunch of time here, creating automatic custom configurations, whether those are creating a mapping of your home or scenes, AI is helping us do this. Creating content recommendations. What would my family be interested in watching on family movie night based on our family dynamics? Maybe we're a Michigan family with 2 children, ages 8 and 12, and, a couple who have been together for 15 years who are in their late 40s. Whatever it happens to be, the more information the system has, the more it can give really interesting recommendations and then help to curate. I'm having a dinner party. I'm having a birthday party. Create a music playlist. All of these things are becoming more and more AI driven. Cameras and securities. I want to know when someone's at my front door. I want to know who it is. I want to know, do they have a dog? I want to know all these things. The idea of camera and security capabilities are getting pretty impressive. And then the next one is running diagnostics and network management to detect issues. I want to know when something goes wrong. I want my home to let me know, hey, it seems like maybe your thermostat's got an issue or your filters need to be updated because the air conditioning's been running for 4 hours and it hasn't cooled it down. Maybe there's an issue to look at. The idea of using AI to help make this better is very much a reality today. AI assistants for tech support. We talked about how can we help people quickly install and troubleshoot. Something's not working, AI can help. And then as we showed with Josh.GPT, going beyond control. How does this start to help you with cooking, with getting information, with assistance, even medical related things? I've been using it for things like, hey, I've got a sunburn. What might I have around the house that I should put on my sunburn? These are things that are just really exciting. And then the last one is, can we finally have a home that actually understands me, whether it's through voice or through actions? I want the home that predicts and does the right things for me without me having to think about it. And this is what we're working on. And many of these things either already exist, but people don't know about it, or they're going to be coming to market in the next 3, 6, 12 months. So I'm pretty excited about the impact on the smart home. So with that, I just want to wrap with anything good, there are always possible bad things. And so I'm going to play this video and then just briefly talk about if we can create images, create video, generate content. Well, we can start to use this for potentially nefarious reasons. Here's a 30-second video that captures this idea.
Second youngest son. He's suggesting it came out of nowhere. What we subsequently learned is it may have come from the former president or his legal team acting in bad faith. This is a deepfake example of what is possible with powerful computer and editing. It took around 72 hours to create this example from scratch using extremely powerful GPU. It could be improved with more computing time, but 90% of people cannot tell the difference.
So that idea of, we can use this for good, but also we can be tricked and, have the wrong things happen. We need to be very mindful of where this technology is going. And so with that, one other thing I want to mention, then my concluding slide. Also, just don't believe everything you see. Google put out this incredible video with Gemini, I think about, 3 months ago or so. I'm back in December. And this video was amazing, the stuff that it can do. For example, you see on the bottom, he's drawing this image and the AI is able to say, oh, it looks like you're drawing a blue duck. And so it's pretty amazing what it's doing. But all of a sudden, people started to question, that doesn't seem real. And so this Ars Technica article has the title, Google's best Gemini AI demo video was fabricated. And Google put out a statement saying, yeah, what we showed wasn't really the AI doing what we said, but it's what we think the AI is going to be doing pretty soon. That wasn't cool. And so I just want to make this mention. There's amazing stuff coming out, but always have a little skepticism with what you're seeing until you've used it yourself, because there's a lot of hype and there are a lot of examples of things that seem like they're advancing too quickly. And in some cases, they might not really be doing what they claim. But that being said, obviously, there's a lot of amazing stuff that is happening. So my concluding message that I want to put out there is, I believe the future is exciting. I am an optimist, but exactly how it's going to play out is still evolving. I think we need to be critical of the technology. I think we need to be aware of things like deep fakes and where some of this might be used in the wrong hands. But where we're using this in the right way with a focus on making the customer experience better, I'm extremely excited. And I think this is really transforming the way that we're interacting with technology in the home. So this is my email. Happy to follow up, take questions if you guys want to reach out after. But in the meantime, happy to pass it back to Greg and Ken and you guys, and let you decide how much time we have for questions, or if you want to move on to the next topic.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, we do have some time. I don't see any questions in the chat. If anybody has a question quickly, we can certainly have Alex take a look at it. Otherwise, we can definitely move on. Yeah, good stuff. Thanks for doing this, Alex. It definitely is exciting. Legrand's involved in some of the data center space. Just an interesting tidbit of information. Just doing some research. Apparently, every 30 inquiries with ChatGPT or one of these others, the amount of cooling that it takes for the computers requires a 16-ounce bottle of water. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It's getting to the point now where they're using water cooling instead of air conditioning.
Yeah, I mean, a great point about that, just to briefly mention, is the way that a large language model like ChatGPT works. It doesn't have really the capability today to say, let me ask some questions with the full model that takes all the compute, and let me ask other questions with a different model. So for example, if you said to it, write me an episode of Seinfeld featuring a smart home and a funny dynamic where Jerry's installing smart lighting and shading, it's going to do that, and it's going to do that with the same compute as if you said, what is 2 + 2? And that's an incredibly poor use of the capabilities on the latter side, because you don't need to have that much processing for a simple question that any computer is going to be able to answer. And so what we're doing on the Josh side is we're actually building a pretty advanced multimodal system that says what things should we send to a large language model and what things should we send to basically a simple natural language processing system, and which things don't even need to go there. And so, for example, if you were to say to it, what's the capital of France? In that case, we just have a lookup table. We give you a quick answer because we know we can answer that question very quickly with very little processing. On the flip side, if you were to say to it, what do you think the population of India is going to look like in the year 2028? Well, that's going to need a large language model because it needs to basically look at lots of predictive factors to do that. And so a large focus of ours is to say, we think large language models will keep getting better and keep getting more efficient. Our goal is to figure out when should we direct something to a large language model and when should we not, so that the net result is a lot better. Because I'll tell you, 90% of the commands we see are simple commands like turn off the lights, close the shades, turn off the TV. And those commands do not need large language models, but we don't know if the next thing you ask it is going to be more complicated. And so creating this multimodal system that acts like a tree where it's branching the query in different ways, that's a big way that we can make these systems more efficient. And we don't see, a ChatGPT doing that because they're not focused on the home. But for us being in the home, that's a big opportunity and a big need to make these systems efficient.
Alex, this is Ken Wax. I'm wondering if this multimodal approach would minimize the effect of having the data used by one particular processor damaged or deliberately poisoned. This is a concern that's we're involved in setting standards at the Consumer Technology Association.
It's a great question. I think there's a longer discussion to be had, and I'm happy to go into that at a later point. At this point, though, it's worth mentioning nothing that goes through Josh GPT is impacting or feeding the large language model. We decided that there is no benefit to impacting a multi-trillion node large language model with customer data, but there's a lot of negative possibilities where we don't want it to know that John Doe likes listening to Lady Gaga on a Friday night, for example. And so we're already creating these silos where the data never leaves the home. And the way that we're basically doing the processing, it retains client privacy and data security. But you're right, it's definitely a problem when you're using a Google system or an OpenAI system, or a system where you just don't know who is getting the information, where is it feeding. I'm very skeptical of large tech companies having motives that are different than ours. Our motive is to offer a great user experience. We're not monetizing data. But a company like a Google or an Amazon, they're obviously trying to build a bigger search and just online marketplace opportunity. And so they have other incentives that I think the consumer needs to be aware of. And what you're working on is critical to trying to figure that out. And so the same way that you're mindful about what search engines are you using and who's got access to your cookies and your browser data, think of things like GDPR. I think the same things are going to be needed for AI. It's definitely early days, but I'm very excited about folks like you guys thinking about these problems and getting ahead of a much needed solution.
All right, it looks like there was one more question in the chat, Alex. I don't know if you saw that. Assume newer, more capable generations of AI will use less energy. If you could comment, given we're currently utilizing GPUs and TPUs for processing, how will quantum computers affect the intelligence?
Yeah, so those are two different great questions. The first one is because these problems are largely problems that for-profit entities are trying to solve. OpenAI is a weird, complicated company, and we won't get into that. But whether it's Google, whether it's Amazon, Microsoft, my company, we're all highly incentivized to spend less money while we, provide greater and greater opportunities. And so there are natural, forces at play to lower the cost of these queries. So you're definitely going to see the energy requirements coming down. I think we're already seeing the progress is something like 10 times that of Moore's law when you think about the compute versus energy needs that are going on. So we're definitely seeing the energy needs getting less and less. The other thing worth mentioning is most of the energy goes into building the model, but once the model is built, the queries actually take a lot less energy. And so I can run a large language model on my phone that's capable of answering lots and lots of questions. And so I think we often are also a little bit confused about where the energy is being utilized. Really, the energy is utilized in creating the model. Once the model's been created, the energy needs go way down. But we're definitely going to see that get better. It's, the same as any other technology trend as long as I've been alive. On quantum computing, the way that large language models are built today, they're not going to benefit from quantum computing because of the way that they're basically structured. That being said, quantum computing is going to help us offer new algorithms, new models that will highly likely be far superior to what we can do today. And so the way I think about it is from 5 years ago to where we are today, the way that large language models have created this step function increase in what we can do, just the capabilities have become much better. When we have quantum computers working at a level that they're more attainable, we have quantum computers today now. They're just extremely expensive and extremely limited in how many people can use them. When quantum computers are as accessible as a GPU is accessible, we're going to see another step function increase in the intelligence, the speed, the efficiency of what we're doing. But it is an entirely different technology. And so we might see different emergent behaviors that we can't yet predict, because honestly, quantum computers have as many unknowns as they have knowns at this point. It's a very nascent or sort of new capability technology.
Awesome, thank you. I think that was it. So again, thanks to Alex for joining us today and sharing some insights on generative AI. I guess we'll turn it back to Ken and talk a little bit about the ASHB Journal.
Thanks very much, Charlie. Yes, I want to talk about the various resources that ASHB makes available to members and also to the general public. We have an original publication called the CABA Journal. We accept articles on topics in our domain, namely home automation, building control systems, and related applications. Our articles are fairly free form because it's online now. There's no real page count. We encourage people to be thoughtful and to help contribute to the body of knowledge. I have been writing for the ASHB Journal and its predecessors dating back to the early 1990s, and I encourage others to use this as an outlet. It is freely available to the public, not just the CABA members. Anyone can go to ashb.com and look under research and read the journal. So I applaud ASHB for continuing this practice. ASHB also generates targeted white papers through the program that's created by the Intelligent Buildings Council and the Connected Home Council. The white papers are proposed by members of the council, and the white paper committee chair, I happen to be the IBC committee chair, assembles a group of people as the lead author prefers to help write the white paper and or review the white paper and critique it. I will mention, although it's not on the agenda, we do have a third source of information, the Publications Review Committee. The Publications Review Committee provides a critical review of papers that have been published elsewhere outside of ASHB. The staff of ASHB culls the trade press and technical press for articles that might be of interest to our domain of homes and buildings, and then asked for volunteers from among the CABA membership to review the articles, see that it's current, see that it's relevant, and see that it's not overtly commercial. We certainly don't shy away from naming brands, but if we describe a technology, a company is allowed to say, and we have a solution, and this is it. What we don't like is when a company says, here's a problem, and we are the only game in town that can solve it. So with that in mind, we encourage CABA members to volunteer to review these papers. I just picked out some papers to review a couple of days ago. There are somewhere in the order of 3 dozen or so papers available to be reviewed. And as a token of appreciation, CABA will give you $25 in cash for reviewing, plus $25 in credit for ASHB products. So please do consider reviewing papers. Reviewers are asked to fill out a checklist, among other things, choosing at least 3 keywords so we can search the database that now has thousands of reviewed articles. We also ask for about 100-word summary of the article so that the readers can quickly hone in on their targeted area. So we have lots of opportunities to get information that would be of value to your membership in ASHB. If there are any questions, please pose them now. Otherwise, we'll move on to yet another service that ASHB provides, the podcast.
Thanks so much, Ken. Yeah, this is, we're going about 1.5 years now with the ASHB podcast. It began not last year, but the year before in the summer. And it was meant to be a quarterly release, but now we're looking at about a release every month or so. Sometimes we get 2 per month. So, it just depends on how much interest we're gaining, and we're getting quite a lot of interest in this venture here. It's a very open-ended process. You could be a host or a guest. You can participate. Just your organization, or you can have multiple partnering organizations on one recording. And we are always looking for hosts and guests, so please reach out to us. Even if it's just to register your name for a future episode, we'll always let you know what's coming up, and if you're interested in joining the conversation, again, whether it's a guest or host, you can certainly let us know. We just recently released an episode on solar energy, and the title of that is Solar Energy is a Team Sport When OEMs and Installers Collaborate for Quality, and that was with Tygo and Solar Time. And then if you'd like to see any of our recent recordings, future recordings, you can just visit our website, and that is ashb.com/podcast. And back to you, Ken.
Marta, thank you. So please keep in mind that we have a lot of venues to get knowledge from ASHB and to contribute your knowledge. So this is your opportunity to propose any new business, new directions, keynotes perhaps, white papers, research projects, so we can ensure that the agenda for our meetings suits your needs. So, any new business? Okay. Let's see, who is handling our events?
That would be me.
Okay.
Yeah, so just a couple of announcements. The events that are coming up, we've got Connections with Parks Associates in Dallas in May. And then they're doing 2 virtual sessions, June and December. And Connections is all about connected homes. Then we've got the Shanghai Smart Home Technology Show in Shanghai in September. CD Expo in September here in Denver. And then the last one is Smart Spaces, which has to do with apartments, hospitality, and community living. That'll be in Richardson, Texas in September. And then 3 virtual sessions of that, March, July, and December. And I think that's about it, Ken. We'll just turn it back to you to wrap things up.
We continue to have meetings about quarterly, so our next one will be sometime in May. Certainly we'll avoid the conferences that Charlie mentioned, like Connections. So, final opportunity for anyone to make a comment. Otherwise, I want to thank you, and in particular, thank Alex for the very enlightening presentation on Josh.ai and the future world with AI type products. Thank you all.